Hello, 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 and welcome to Courageously Kind. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Liz. We're twin sisters and best friends.
Together, we share stories of especially kind humans doing especially kind things in hopes that these conversations motivate and inspire you to be kinder to yourself and others. When we're not speaking with an incredible guest, we'll speak directly from our hearts about what it means to us to be courageously kind. This week we had the absolute honor of speaking with Nōn Wels, who is the host of a podcast called You, Me, Empathy. Isn't that amazing? And also the founder of the Feely Human Collective. Doesn't that sound so exciting? I love it.
It's so creative. I love it. And we definitely got in our feels with this episode. And I really think you guys will too, in the best way.
Absolutely. Nōn is so insightful. He's so wise. And we are so grateful to have him on the show and for him to share some of his beautiful wisdom with us today as well. So settle in, get ready to get in your feels a little bit, and enjoy this episode with Nōn.
Thank you. So my name is Nōn Wels. I am a feely human. I am a feely boy. I am a doggo lover. I'm a writer. I have the podcast You, Me, Empathy that I've been doing for about 5 years now. And I created that to be a space to be seen in our wholeness. It's something I never really had, and I wanted to create that for myself, but mostly for others, to allow others to be seen and heard, and allow listeners to reflect and to share and to empathize with the stories of others. And I'm the founder of the Feely Human Collective, which is a community of feely weirdos and rejects and highly sensitive people and activists and creatives, really dedicated around this idea of growing and grappling with the superpowers of empathy, vulnerability, and emotional curiosity. And in that front, or in that vein, I lead workshops, and I'm in the process of building out a membership community and have some merch and things, Yeah, that's me.
I love it. That's awesome. How did you come up with the name Feely Human? I feel like it is kind of self-explanatory, but I love it so much.
Thank you. No, that's a great question. I think I'm sure the origin happened on the podcast. I think I called myself that at some point. I'm like, this feels right. This feels accurate. Like, I am, feely in the sense that, like, I am deeply sensitive. I feel my feelings. I'm curious. I want to, like, experience life in meaningful and hard ways. And I think a feely human is someone who is an activist, someone who cares about the world and other people, and sort of protecting this planet and building community and fostering brave and beautiful spaces, and so it just fit. And I'm like, oh, it fits for a lot of the people that I talk to. I'm sure it fits for you too.
For sure. Absolutely.
Totally.
And I would say, like, most of the people we know too, like you said, most of the people you talk to, it totally fits. And I love it. And I don't think I ever would have thought of feeling human, but it's so, like, I feel like it just totally encapsulates everything that you just mentioned. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
How did the community get started? Where did you like start a physical space, or did it take off online? What were the origins of that sort of community building aspect?
When I started You, Me, Empathy, it was my sort of desire to just kind of grow my own capacity for showing up for people. I was sort of previous to that on my own mental health journey, and I wanted to do more. And then when a couple of years into that, I'm like, I still want to do more. I have, like, a deep, compassionate heart, and I sometimes that gets me into trouble. Sometimes I overwork or burn out myself, sometimes, get overwhelmed easily. But I wanted to do more. I wanted to do more in my community. I wanted to do more for, people I've interacted with through the podcast. And so I started building it out, I guess in 2019, and then it didn't officially launch to the public until May of 2020, which was like, as you know, a couple months into a global pandemic. A
Yeah.
perfect time to bring people together.
Oh, yeah.
But it served it in a way, in that, because it was really just, at least in its first year, mostly an online space.
Mhm.
And by that I mean like a lot of Instagram sort of community building.
Mhm.
I've since discovered that social media isn't the greatest community building platform, but like since then it's sort of grown in that, yes, I do workshops in local businesses and bookshops and things like that on empathy, and I lead locally here in Southern California this thing called Feely Hikes, where
Mm.
me and others go and move our bodies and our
Yeah.
hearts,
Oh.
and then just local activism, and mental health advocacy, that kind of stuff. And we're really where I want to take it. I mentioned this membership community I'm building
Mhm.
that I'm hoping to launch in January of 2023. It's I've realized that social media as a platform is great for marketing. It's great for like
Mm.
staying connected at times, but it's not really, it doesn't really facilitate deep meaningful collaboration.
Yeah.
Often I feel like, and I don't know if you feel like this sometimes, often I feel like I'm just like speaking into the ether and no one's listening.
Yeah. All the
And so,
time.
right, right. And
Yeah.
so for a sensitive person, you're like, that feels hard, that feels
Yeah.
frustrating. And so the membership community is really like, the idea there is like, I want I want to be where the people are, as Ariel says. I truly want to like grapple and grow together, and be witness to that growth and grappling as a community.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever thought about that, but Instagram does feel like it lacks, I think, at least I feel like it
Mhm.
feels like it
Deep
lacks,
connection,
yeah,
yeah.
a deep
And
connection.
it can definitely feel like you're just talking to, a wall or
Yeah.
something.
Absolutely. And there's a
Yeah.
sheen to it too. There's a lot, it
Yeah.
like, it rewards performance. And by
Mhm.
that, like, you hear it all the time, right? Like, you present yourself in the way you want to be presented, and that sometimes
Yeah.
that's not always authentic, and that's fine, and we show up in the way we show up. But it also, like, it rewards a performative quality of activism. It rewards a performative quality of deep shared humanity. And
Yeah.
I want to, like, I perpetually want to be in an uncomfortable place. And
Mm.
that's a, that may be a privileged position, and that I want to seek that, but like, it's where I want to be. I want to grow and grapple together. And so Feely Human, like, it started with empathy, vulnerability, and emotional curiosity, which were all three tenets of my own mental health journey, and the three things that really helped me um connect with myself, help me heal through a lot of trauma, help me grow in connection with others, all of that stuff. And so those are sort of the tenets of what Feely Human is.
I love that. For someone
Yeah.
who maybe has never heard the term emotional curiosity before, how would you describe that and what does that look like for you?
Yeah. So emotional curiosity, it's kind of a blanket term, but it essentially means being curious about our emotions and feelings, right?
Mhm.
I believe that feelings, well, certainly every human has feelings. We all have feelings, whether we are willing to admit it or not, right?
Mhm.
And so I think it's important for our own development to be curious about what's happening with our feelings and emotions, right? Something comes up, I'm feeling anxious, right? It's better for me and the people around us in the long run for me
Mhm.
to ask what's going on there, like, why am I feeling anxious, like, what is that about? And feelings, feelings are just feelings. We all have them. They're not facts. they are sometimes not even truths.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're the feelings of others, right? If you're a
Yeah.
highly sensitive person, you can, or empathetic person, you can pick up the feelings of another person. So you have to discern, are these feelings mine or someone else's, right?
Mhm.
So being curious about your feelings is information. It's like information gathering, right?
Yeah.
And so what that means to me is I am being present and aware of my own self,
Mhm.
and how, and that's going to ultimately allow me to be more present and loving and empathetic and compassionate toward others at the end of the day,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Because if I'm showing up in spaces and I have no clue, like if I've like just stuff all that stuff down, like I'm showing up as someone I don't even know,
Yeah.
right? And then
Yeah.
how do I show up and like truly care and be present for another person if I don't know myself?
Yeah.
That's why I
Yeah.
always say like you have to go inward before you go outward, right?
Mhm.
Like
Absolutely.
a big part of empathy or emotional curiosity or vulnerability is like to get comfortable with those things for yourself and what they mean for yourself prior to
Mhm.
like really making an impact on others in your life. Like my own empathy journey, um and having empathy for myself
Mhm.
has allowed me to like do that in big and beautiful ways for my partner, you know, even the dogs in my life, the animals in my life, like
Yeah.
friends. It's beautiful, and it's challenging certainly, but it's, I think, in a world where, I mean, I'm sure you two feel this as college students, there's a lot of pressure, right? There's a
Yeah.
lot of pressure to perform. There's a lot of pressure to achieve. Certain, like, you know, I remember coming out of high school and being like the only reason I went to college is I got a soccer scholarship.
Yeah.
But I remember the pressure of like, oh, that's just the step you take. You go from high
Yeah.
school, you go to college, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's a little messed up. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's the right approach, but there is this a pressure to achieve and to check boxes, and like, you're an adult now, you do these things. And I think we need to
Yeah.
like obliterate all of that.
I love it. Yeah.
Yes.
And so like I think the work of a Feely human in my mind is to examine all of that and understand what that means for us and slow down and look at it and pause and be still in some of that discomfort,
Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely. For someone who wants to start like this journey inward but has no idea where to start, do you have any advice or anything that you would recommend for someone who wants to start that journey?
Sure. I mean, the disclaimer always is that I am not a therapist. I am not a mental health professional. I am a Feely boy who once buried a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in the backyard and the next day dug it up and ate it. So I am very professional. Um, no, but like truly, I think finding what feels like safe people is an
Mm.
important part of that work, right?
Yeah.
Like I truly believe like this is the stuff that we don't do alone.
Yeah.
Like we can't truly do all of this stuff alone. Like we need each other. We need that
Absolutely.
mirror, right?
Yeah.
Like I know that for myself, like I struggle sometimes with like just making sense of my feelings, making sense of my thoughts, like making sense of this silly brain of mine. And
Mhm.
so having a partner, having friends to like reflect openly and allowing for, and having it to be, having it feel safe and feel seen and heard in those spaces, and where you're not going to be judged, where there's no shame, right?
Yeah.
Like that is crucial. So finding what feels like safe people, right, is a
Mhm.
crucial part of it.
Absolutely.
And then, you know, and then there are all sorts of tools, right? Journaling is a big one. You know, I did a lot of writing in my early mental health journey that was just like a lot of just reflecting in nonsensical ways. Like, I
Mhm.
don't know how to make sense of this, but I'm going to write and just get it out,
Get
you
it out.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of
Absolutely.
that. Certainly therapy has helped in moments in my life, things like that.
Yeah.
Medication, you know, like I
Yeah.
think one of the things that I find that is often true, and I'm wondering if it's for true for either of you, is that
Mhm.
a big obstacle to all of that is, do we even feel like we deserve that care and curiosity? Like, do we even feel like we deserve to go on that journey to figure out what we're about and who we are and how we heal and all of that stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my
What a
gosh. Oh,
hard
that
hitting
hits.
question too. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think for me too, like, am I willing to put myself in that uncomfortable space of like
Mhm.
figuring it all out when it might be more comfortable to just squish it down and not think about my feelings and not
Mhm.
address it?
Yeah.
But it's just going to cause more problems for me later, you know? It's not doing me any good. So, yeah, are
It
we willing
is.
to go there?
Yeah, and I think what is also important to say is that the pushing down
Mhm.
and the censoring of ourselves and the diminishing of ourselves sometimes is a coping mechanism too, that we
Yeah.
need in certain moments in our life, right?
Yeah.
It
Mhm.
might have been a survival technique that we picked up in childhood, right? Like
Yeah.
I know for me that I grew up in an environment that didn't feel safe, and so I
Mhm.
learned, like, I was so good at just like shutting that stuff down, like guarding my heart in ways that protected me, that helped me survive, right? But then
Yeah.
when I got into my teenage years and in adult years, like, I was a lost little baby, like I didn't know
Yeah.
how to operate with my heart, right? It was like a
Yeah.
brand new heart, which is hard. So like I think that's why the self-empathy piece is so important, because it's going to be hard work, it's essential work, and
Yeah.
we need to give ourselves kindness for the survival tools and techniques that we've picked up along the way.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that. And like you said, mentioning that kindness and like not beating ourselves up for those, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
showing ourselves empathy
Mhm.
and understanding, like you said, that that was just something we did to protect ourselves. And
Yeah.
we're
yeah.
we're we're humans, we're messy. Like, I
Yeah.
think the natural human state is messiness, it's mushiness, it's weirdness. It's so allow for some of that, like, because we mentioned Instagram before and the
Yeah.
performance of that and the sheen of that.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's natural to want to feel like, oh, I've got my stuff together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
that's like, because I don't want to make anyone else uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
And I think shedding a little bit of that and sort of dismantling a bit of that is going to do us all a good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you think there's any way to kind of reshape social media, or do you think we need to kind of start over, come up
Mm.
with a new system?
It's an interesting question. I think it's ultimately what we bring to it. I
Mhm.
think it will always be and will continue to be a tool or a platform at the end of the day that, it's a business, right? It needs money. It
Mhm.
develops algorithms to facilitate that. And as part of that, that algorithm, it censors content that I may share, mental health stuff, or it may share content that someone's posting that's about banning books or whatever, because that's too
Yeah.
political or whatever, right? But these things
Yeah.
need to be talked about and said. So
Yeah.
it is useful. But I think ultimately, I don't know if we can reshape it. I think that's an interesting idea. What we
Mhm.
can do is be critical and discerning about our relationship with it. Like, are we taking care of ourselves? Are we scrolling too much? Are we
Mhm.
being clear about like why we are here?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what, like, you two have this podcast, this beautiful podcast, right? I have my podcast. I'm
Mhm.
always checking in on, like, does this still feel good to me?
Yeah.
Mm.
Is the why still clear to me? And
Yeah.
I would say we should ask ourselves that with social media too, right?
Yeah. For
Like, does
sure.
this still feel meaningful?
Mhm.
And if that question is hard to ask, maybe it's not leaving Instagram completely. Maybe it's just using it in a way that's a bit more balanced or serving to your community, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We just had that conversation a few days ago of like, let's, like make sure that our intentions for the podcast are still what we wanted them to be and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I love that. That's important.
Yeah, I think we've learned that we have to check in with each other and ourselves often about that.
It's hard too because you have a good day on TikTok or whatever, or you get a lot of views on something, and it kind of fuels maybe your ego a little bit.
Yeah.
And then you want to make more, and see again, you have to check yourself and say, okay,
why am I doing this?
Why am I doing this? Is the message still rooted in courage and kindness?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny, we're taking a course too called Media Culture and Society, which talks about all of these things, right? How are we using media, checking ourselves and making sure that we just had an episode on doom scrolling too, about like just mindfully and, like you said, critically looking at how we use, especially like social media.
Yeah, it's tricky, right? Like Liz, you mentioned the numbers, and the numbers can be, it can go to our heads, right? And I feel like, I feel like that is a byproduct or just a part of the system of what is capitalism. And capitalism, in my perspective, is toxic. It's a toxic force that makes us feel like we have to keep checking boxes and achieving and growing those numbers. And what does that even mean, right? Like it doesn't feel human to me.
Yeah.
Right. So it is ultimately, and I'm grateful to hear that you two are thinking about it, like bringing awareness to it is so important. Yeah. Not doing the things mindlessly, but bringing a more mindful approach to it. Yeah.
Well, I've noticed too, like when I'm not mindfully thinking about like what am I looking at on Instagram and stuff, that kind of permeates into my life too, where I feel less mindful in other, like when I'm talking to my friends and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think that awareness can spread to like all aspects of our lives too.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Can I just say that you two give me hope for the future? Truly. I have goosebumps and I want to cry thinking about.
Stop.
Truly.
You're gonna make me cry.
I'm like already crying. So
Stop. Oh my god. Okay.
I think it's because when I was a college student, I was a mess. I was battling anorexia. I was undiagnosed major depressive disorder. Like I was a mess, and I had no like awareness and insight. And that's not a criticism on myself. That's just what it was. That's the byproduct of where I came from.
Yeah.
And so when I am faced with or witness to young humans in the world like talking about this stuff and being aware of this stuff, it gives me hope for the future. So thank you.
Oh my god. Thank you for saying that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm gonna cry.
We need you.
Right.
We need you.
And we need you. We need people to look up to.
I'm
no. So what's going on with the Feely Human? What else? You mentioned that you do workshops. You're creating this new platform. What do the next few months look like for you?
Yeah, it's really about building out that membership community, and what that will look like starting in January is it's going to be a paid sort of private membership.
Yeah.
And there will be monthly events with various Feely human friends that I've met throughout the years. Jen Pasteloff, Vanessa Bennett, various other people lead workshops on various Feely things monthly, and then we'll have monthly conversations focused around You Me Empathy, the podcast, as well as movies that make us feel, which is like an ongoing series I'm doing about talking about movies that make us feel, and then various other things that I'm planning. But I'm really excited about that. So that's been my main focus. The other thing I'm working on is I've been building out this deck of cards that's designed to help us sort of grow our capacity for empathy and vulnerability.
Awesome.
And my friend S has been has been illustrating them, and S is a beautiful, beautiful artist based in Canada, and we're working on it together. And so eventually, I'm right now working on the pitch deck for that. So we're going to eventually pitch that and hopefully get that published sometime next year. So those are
Awesome,
like the
Chris.
two big things. Like the workshops and things have been, I've sort of taken a pause on them because it takes a lot of work to plan those.
Mhm.
I'm still doing like, I'll do like occasional like co-creating sessions over Zoom with
that.
the community, as well as the
Yeah.
Feely hikes are monthly. Those continue, but yeah, those are the main things. Yeah.
That's awesome. You're a busy guy.
Yeah, I got 2 rescue hounds. I also run an Airbnb, and I got a couple of part-time jobs,
Oh my
doing
gosh.
all the things.
Of course.
Doing all
Doing
the
it
things.
all.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
I have a couple more questions.
Yeah.
We ask this to everyone that has a podcast that comes on here, and it is the hardest question, and I never know how to answer it myself. So if you don't know how to answer it, that's totally fine. But do you have a guest, like a favorite guest that you've interviewed, a favorite episode that you've done? I know it's so hard, and you can totally say that you don't want to answer because I don't know how to answer this question either. But
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like picking your favorite child, right?
right,
Or your
exactly.
favorite dog,
Yeah.
Ripley is the favorite dog, by the way. I'm just kidding. I think what is interesting about doing a podcast is that you are also witness to your own growth as a human, right? Like I recently have gone back and listened to some of the early episodes of my podcast, and I'm a different person, which is kind of exciting, right? To think about. And I've had so many wonderful, wonderful humans on the show, from therapists and authors and big names like Will Wheaton and things of that sort. I think a recent favorite, I would say, is Dr. Jennifer Mullen. She is at Decolonizing Therapy on Instagram, and we just like really got into the systems of therapy and therapists, and like how that system has been set up to really be, first of all, really hard on caretakers and therapists, right? And sort of the systemic issues there, and like how that eventually impacts and makes therapy very inaccessible to a lot of people. And so we talked about that and what dismantling that looks like, and it's like she's just a force for beauty and good in the world, and I highly recommend anyone listening to go follow Dr. Jennifer Mullen. So yeah, that's a recent fave.
That's awesome. We'll be sure to link that
Absolutely.
episode and her
Yes.
socials and stuff in the
Yeah.
description too.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You have a podcast called Movies That Make Us Feel. Do you have a favorite movie? Again, can you pick one? I know it's hard.
I mean, how dare you ask me these questions? I definitely don't have a favorite movie all time, but I have a few favorites, and I would say a recent favorite is Everything Everywhere All at Once. Have you seen it?
No, I heard really good
Oh,
things about it.
do that. Like, that's your
Okay.
homework for the week,
Okay.
is like
Perfect.
watch that movie. It's available
Yeah.
to rent right now on, wherever.
Awesome.
It's like it's a movie that when we saw it in the theaters, I've seen it 3 times. Saw it in the theaters the first time, I had to wait 10 minutes because I was crying uncontrollably. It's just so it's hilarious, it's absurd, and it's so deeply emotional. And if like I connected to it on like a mental health level, like I think there's a great mental health allegory at play in the movie. It's just beautiful. I would say an all-time favorite is Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, which is a 80s Hayao Miyazaki animated film out of Japan. Have you seen any Studio Ghibli movies, like
I think I've seen a couple.
Howl's Moving Castle,
Yeah.
Princess Mononoke? Yeah. Same director. This one is like a lot of his films, Miyazaki's films, it's an environmental allegory about like, hey, we're abusing the earth.
Yeah.
and it's from like the mid 80s maybe, I think. And it's really special. I'm a big nerd for like hand-drawn animation, so
Wonderful.
that's another one I love. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
How about
Someone
you?
asked, yeah,
What's
someone
your
asked
favorite
me.
movie?
Okay, I was just gonna say, someone asked this to me the other day, and I didn't know how to answer. I love The Princess Bride. I love Mandy Patinkin.
Oh,
Oh,
He's the
it's a great one.
best.
Yeah.
love it.
So
He's a
good.
dreamboat.
Right?
Oh,
Yes, for
So
sure.
good.
I love that they have TikTok.
He has, yeah, him and his
Oh.
wife have a TikTok. It's amazing.
Really?
They're
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I love
They
That's
do like a
funny.
lot of like activism stuff on
incredible
there. It's really
activism.
cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Mhm.
What would you say?
Oh my gosh. I don't know.
Yeah, put you on the spot.
Oh,
If
I don't. I
you had to
can't
pick one right now.
I don't
No.
think I can. It's a
Alright.
lame answer. I'm sorry.
That's valid. We'll respect it.
It's
We'll respect it.
a
No,
tough,
is there anything else?
tough question.
It
It
is.
is.
Yeah.
It is. Put you on the spot. Is there anything else that you would like people to know about the Feely Human, about You Me Empathy, about any of the wonderful things that you are doing to make the world a better place?
I would just say to like I love the name of your podcast, Courageously Kind, and I think to be empathetic, to be vulnerable, to be emotionally curious, to be a feely human is courageous.
Yeah.
Kindness is courageous, right? So
Yeah.
remember that showing up in the world in all of the sort of rich, messy tapestry that is us, that is the human condition, is a beautiful gift for yourself and the world. And sometimes it's hard, and sometimes shame comes up, and sometimes anxiety comes up in that space. But like, keep doing it, because it is courageous and it is brave, and is what the world needs. So I would say that.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. This has been like one of the most like awakening, like fulfilling episodes I
Yeah.
think we've ever done.
No, for sure. I'm like,
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you.
I'm starting to feel all the feels.
I know,
We'll
I
explore
love
those
it.
later.
Yes,
Yeah.
feel those feels.
Yes. I love it. No, thank you so
Thank
much for being
you.
here with us
Yes.
today.
Oh my
We
goodness,
really,
thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Thanks for
So
inviting
cool
me. It was
to-
an honor.
So cool to connect with you like this.
Yeah.
And thanks for answering our email. We send a lot of cold emails. Don't get many responses. So
Well, I should
we
say that
appreciate it.
you did well with your email. I get a
Thank
lot
you.
of emails. I get a lot of
I'm sure.
emails, and a lot of people wanting to be on the show, or a lot of people just pitching their person for the show, things like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are very clearly like they don't know me, or
Yeah.
have like they've never listened to the podcast or whatever. They just like,
Yeah.
it's clear to me that they're like not my people. And so
Yeah.
your email was easy to read, it was kind, it was sweet, and it was an easy yes. So yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We have gotten a few of those emails too, where
Yeah.
people are pitching themselves and it just doesn't
Mhm.
doesn't feel genuine. Or Liz gets DMs from producers
Oh my
all the
gosh,
time that
it's
feel
so
like
weird.
they.
Wait, Instagram DMs. Like, why are we conducting like business or like?
Why do you? Yeah,
project
business
over-
propositions. Over,
Yeah,
I mean,
why?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the way
Yeah.
of the future, but yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything do you think that we could do differently? I would love to ask you, as someone who has been a podcast creator for 5 years. Do you have any advice for us? This is kind of a selfish question, but
I love it. I love it. I think what you two are doing is wonderful. I would say keep, checking in, right, on your why, and understanding also that why may change, and that's okay too, right?
yeah.
Allow yourself to change in that process. Allow yourself to be challenged in the process. And like, I do some podcast consulting, and one of the things that I always come back to is knowing that like even the podcast itself can change. Like that's okay too. Like and sometimes that's needed, right? Because
Yeah.
like I know for me, like I've been doing the show the same way for the past 5 years, and I still love it. And I'm also like starting to feel a little inkling of like, I want to like maybe change this up.
Yeah.
And that could look like putting an end to Yumi Empathy and starting something new in the same vein with a new name and a different approach and structure, right?
Yeah.
And that's exciting to think about, right?
Yeah.
So I would say keep doing what you're doing, keep checking in and allowing for transformation.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
We can do that.
Yeah.
No, and thank you so much.
Thank you, thank
Again.
you.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Liz and I always chat a little bit after we do an interview, and she said to me that she thinks that this episode is one that she is going to go back and listen to over and over again.
Absolutely. You know, a little confession time. I normally kind of black out during interviews. I don't know, it must be nerves or something.
I do the same thing. I never remember what I say.
Yes, I have a great conversation, and I end the conversation knowing it was a great conversation. And the next day I'm like, I have no idea what happened.
I don't remember anything. I
Yes.
hope I didn't sound like an idiot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
anytime I like read in public.
Yeah,
I'm like,
same.
I don't know what I just said.
Yep.
But this episode, along with a few others of ours, are episodes that I am going to have on repeat all the time because everything Nōn was saying just hit so hard
Yeah.
in the best way.
Yeah. And I think that, like, totally on brand for him, you know, the feely human.
Absolutely.
He really made us feel some really beautiful things and encouraged us to be really self-reflective. And we encourage you to do the same. So definitely go check out Yumi Empathy, check out the Feely Human Collective. You can find him on Instagram, and we will tag that, of course, in the description. And stay tuned for that awesome new membership community thing. That sounds awesome, and we can't wait to see what that ends up looking like.
Thank you so much for listening to an amazing conversation, and we will see you back here real soon. We'd like to give a huge thank you to Nōn Wels Landscape Contracting for their support of Courageously Kind.
Nōn Wels is a family-owned landscape contracting company in Berks County that has served Pennsylvania for over 35 years.
If you're ready to get your landscaping project started, visit NōNWelsLandscape.com or call 610-916-7070.
Nōn Wels Landscape Contracting, beautifying Pennsylvania 1 yard at a time.
Thank you so much for listening. If you like this episode, feel free to share it with your friends, your family, or anyone you think might like it too.
And if you want to support the show, leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It really does help. Or check out our merch store at courageouslykind.org. Take good care, and we'll see you back here real soon.